Hello and a very good evening to everyone. So how was the exercise? Did you like it? Did you learn something? Yes, you need to think from the business perspective, and once you start thinking from the business side, your experience or the product will start improving automatically, because then you will think about not just like beautifying the product, but also thinking from like how to engage the users, how to generate revenue, how to increase the on time and increase the conversion. So there are so many different things that for which we design the products, and by understanding the business side, you are able to like have a better clarity. Yeah, so we'll learn more about it. Yes, that's right. Okay, I think like it's 7:35, so चालू करते हैं. So this we had already discussed. हम यहाँ तक पहुँच गए थे, right? So we were discussing about. Yes, right. So business point of view से समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है. तो हम So what we discussed about was this chart, right? So in this we saw that there were 9 different focus areas. There are many different focus areas, but like these are the broad category if we have to define or group the focus areas. So these are like the broad ones, and so whatever product you are working on, whether it's digital product, physical product. So if you can get, or if you have a better clarity of these focus areas, then that means like because once you have the clarity, then only you'll step in, like otherwise what will happen is that if you don't have clarity and you invest money and invest resources and everything, and that might like lead to failure of the product. So that is why, so understanding this is very important. And I think like I've received around 35 this business model canvas from you, and I've not gone through all of them, but like yes, I've gone through like 20-25 of those, and I've seen that yes, you have done a good job. So even without having any understanding of like what it was and what should be done, still you have done a good job. And I didn't explain much about this canvas, about this business model, because I wanted you to work on yourself, by yourself means. Okay, so now what will happen, like once I'll explain you like each of these components or the focus areas, then what we'll do is like once you understand more about this, I'll ask you to rework on this. I'll ask you to rework not now, but like after the 3rd or the 4th class, after I have taught you, after I have explained what is user experience process and like what are the different stages and so on. So once I have done that, you'll have to go back again, because by the time you'll have more clarity about your product. So, and also about the experience, also about understanding who the users are, whom are you building this product for. So after we have done the research part, that is the first stage in the UX process, you will have to go back and rework on this. And so today what I'll do is I'll try and explain these areas, and so I've shared one URL with you. I'll refer that URL itself, because the content there was like very good and very nicely placed. So I'll use that as a reference, and we'll try to explain you about each focus areas. And once I'm done with that, we'll learn one more thing. So that is basically once you're done with understanding what is the business, you will define your business vision statement. Okay, so you will define, like you write a paragraph and you'll say like what is the exact vision, why or why are you planning to do this, and what is that you want to achieve by creating or developing or building this product, right? So let's get started with understanding what is the business canvas, model canvas. And so we already saw that. So in this, the first focus area is key partners. So suppose I want to offer XYZ services to the customers. So in that case, I need to understand like, okay, so if I want to XYZ services, so will I hire people by myself, or like will I take the services from other people? If it's a product, if I'm suppose starting an e-commerce website or an app, and if I have to source different products, physical products, so would I be developing or making that product, or would I go and like buy it from the vendors? So this is the stage, or this is the area where we define all those things. So in the case of if I say the example of that OTT platform, in that case our partners would be what different OTT platforms. So basically Amazon Prime, then Netflix, then Woot and Z and all those things, right? So what you will do is like you'll go to them and you'll discuss, do all the formalities, meetings and all, and then you will source the movies or like videos and so on, and then you will stream that on your platform. It could be like in any way. So basically, why we define this, because it helps us understand like how will we source the product, and who will be the key people who will help us grow and help us achieve our vision, right? So it's very important to understand, and this key partners will depend or vary from product to product. Some might in the case of like the e-commerce products, you'll have to like rely on someone who's manufacturing or building that product, physical product. But in the case of digital products, you'll have to just take the licenses and start selling the licenses, sub-licensing the products, right? So that's why understanding the key partners is very important. So whatever the problem or the exercise you have chosen, you should have a good understanding of who are the key partners in your area. So here, why we choose these partners, or why it is important, because one, economies of scale. So basically, if I am someone who's just starting and if I have to like create the product, then it will become very difficult, because I can produce some product, some quantity, but I can't produce if I have to like increase the quantity and like expand my sales, I won't be able to do that. So if you start partnering with the people or the companies, then it will become very easy, and you'll be able to like fulfill all the demands, and we'll be able to supply all the products, right? So that is one thing. The other is, since you're starting in the business, this business or the idea, you don't want to take risk. And so when starting, what you do is you generally partner with someone, and then source this product and then ship it to the market. So risk-free kind of activity, and then the acquisition of resources or activity. Again, like here you try to take in the services. So this is basically very clear, like it's partners, like you're associating with someone and then taking their product and subleasing or sub-selling the product. So this is simple, this is very easy, so I'll not talk much about that. Now the second is key activities. This is all the services or the products that you wish to sell, right? And this is also very easy, like you talk about, like if I wish to sell or create an app or a marketplace wherein I want to sell the clothing. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to like tie or build relationship with different suppliers, then source it, then maintain inventory and push it onto the e-commerce platform, and then start selling from there, right? So here what I'm doing is I'm selling the products, and so here you need to understand like what are the key activities you are doing. One, if I'm running an e-commerce business, I'm trying to sell the products, right? So you need to understand that. And if we talk about key activities, we basically divide this into three different categories. One is the production, the other is the problem solving, and the other is the platform or the network. So production is basically what are we trying to deliver, and here what we do is like we often try to relate it with the quantity and the quality. So basically we always focus on delivering the right quantity, and basically if there is a demand, we should be able to supply that or meet that demand, and also the quality of the product that we are selling should be good. So when we are creating this business model, we should consider all those things. So like if I'm offering XYZ services, then I should be always able to meet my demand, and whatever homework is required for that, I should be prepared with that. I should have done that, right? And why will people buy my product? Because I in some way must be like solving the problem. So in case I'm not solving any problem, then people won't come and buy. So I need to understand like what problem I'm solving by selling my services or the product. And network or the platform is basically what are the other tools or the software. This is basically for the digital space. So if I'm offering some digital platform, so do I need to source some software or take some license before giving the services to the users? So we need to understand these things. And here there's a note here, like when we are creating this canvas, we should not mention all the activities, like even the micro activities and those things. We should not mention that. We should only put the core activities which will help us achieve our USP, like whatever mission we want to achieve or whatever vision we have. So those core USPs we should always focus on. Key resources, very simple. What resources would you need to achieve your goal? One, this basically the infrastructure. So you need an office, you need a warehouse, or you need a place where you can call everyone, like the employees and so on, and work together. So that's like the physical space. And then additionally, what are the other machines that you need? Are there any machinery that we need, or if not machinery, what are the platforms, digital platforms that you need? So like I'm conducting this, so this workshop, so what I need is like required for this was the license for the WebEx platform, right? So this is a very small example, but similarly when you're working on a larger scale, you will need a lot of licensing done, then lot of softwares and XYZ. So you need those properties. So you need to understand that, like when you're working on your product, what are those resources. Along with that, you also need people. So these are the human resources, and financial is like basically all the money. Where will that money come from? Who will do the investment, and so on. So in the key resources, we define these things, and this is the core of the product. So other things can be managed in some way or the other, but if you go wrong with this value proposition, then even if you have a lot of money, a lot of resources, infrastructure, everything, your product will fail. So you need to understand and differentiate or create some uniqueness in your product. And once you have the uniqueness, people will stick to your product, people will start using your product, and there will be word of mouth advertising, and people will talk good about you, and then there will be a goodwill created among people, and people will start having confidence on your product, and people will start buying and using your product. So more and more people will come and use your product. So what is the value that you're delivering? So basically, in different businesses, you might have like different segments, different personas of people, or the customers. So what is the value that you're delivering to each persona, each group of people, right? You need to understand that, and each product, whatever you're building, you should be able to have some USP, some value proposition, unique, and one is that you should be able to deliver something to them. You should either solve their problem or you should satisfy their need. So your product should do that. And when you are evaluating your product, whatever you're choosing for this exercise, so you should check this. Is your product solving some problem, or is it satisfying some need? And if it is, then what are those? You should list it down, and that will really help you, like when you're working on your product, right? And some of the common value propositions are newness. Is it new in the market? High performance. It will help you achieve something great. Or can I customize it as per my need? The design is very good. Does it have some brand value or status? Then price comparison. Is it cheaper than the other products available in the market? It will help me reduce the overall cost of certain things, and then I will have less risk, and it is easy or convenience for me to use that product. See that these are like a few of the pointers, but your proposition might change and might be different from these, right? And then customer relationship is also important if you want to sustain and continue with your business. So suppose you created something good, you have acquired a lot of customers, but are you able to retain them? Are you able to satisfy with your services? If you are, then it's well and good. If not, then what would you do to retain them? What would you do to achieve or give them the confidence that they stay with your product? So this is what you define, like what are the steps, what are the activities that you will do to retain those customers and build a happy and a good relationship with them. So this is what we do, and we'll understand this, we'll learn about this in the UX process. So what we do in the UX process is we define customer journey. Okay, so customer journey is basically the journey from the point where there is a need from the user. So basically, user has a need till the end of the journey where he actually used your product and is either happy or not happy with your product. So we'll understand how to create journey, and that will help us understand how to create good relationship with the customers, right? Channels, again, is very easy. Channels, suppose I give the example of that e-commerce. So if I talk about, no worries, Pooja. So if I'm talking about channels, and I was giving this example of e-commerce. So in the e-commerce, what will happen is my channels will be like mobile. I will have a mobile application. I will have a website, and I'll try to use different advertising channels also, like the affiliate marketing, affiliate network, to sell my product right. So these are different channels. So for your product, you need to understand like what are the channels that you will use, or that will help you achieve that success in success and that goal that you have, right? So here, how will you push your product to the customer, and what is the route that you will take? What is the channel? What are the different like in the case of the retail store, what will happen is like there will be a lot of stores. You will take the help of those stores, or there will be like a lot of sales people who will come and like you will take the product and sell it. So there are like different ways how you can sell your product. So this is basically called as the channel. Okay, and then customer segment is also important. So basically, like suppose if I have a product and my product can be used by two different customer groups. So those are basically two different customer segments, and I should know like who they are and how can I reach them. And so basically, like if you see here, like example of Google. In the Google, what happens? The end user, like we do all the searching and all those things. So basically, we are one customers, and the other customers is the advertiser who is advertising on Google network, right? So we need to understand for our product who are the customers and how can we reach them. So basically, we need to understand this customer segment. And then cost structure is basically we have this vision. So how can we achieve that vision? And so that is basically the different steps we will take, different planning we'll do. We'll hire people. We'll take the we'll get infrastructure allocated for that, and so on. So for all these, what we need is like we need money. We need resources in order to buy this. We need something money, right? So that is what we should define in initial, and we should know like okay, X percentage of money will be invested on these resources, Y will be invested on these, and then you should have a defined roadmap or the calculation done of like where you will be investing the money and like what is the initial investment that you will need for starting the business and also continuing the business. So this is basically the cost structure, and it like since this was the first time, most of them might not have got how to calculate this, but it's fine. But having even a slight idea of like where the money will go and those things will help us. We help you. So that is the cost, and the revenue is basically once you have invested the money on the product and you've created the product and shipped it to the market, how will the money get back to you? So if you are selling the product, then you will sell the product and get the money. The other is if you are just sourcing the product from someone and then acting as a middleman, then you will get the commission. So that will be your source of revenue. If you have created some digital product, then monthly subscription, daily subscription, weekly subscription. So those will be your source of revenue, right? So these 9 boxes or the focus areas you should be very clear with or clear of. Right. So these are few of the examples you must have seen in that page or the link that I've shared. So this is the example of Google, and Google what it does is like the key factors are the different platforms and either they sell or they source, or the OEMs, basically different companies where they sell the product, and the key activities is basically internally what they do is like they manage the platform, they do all the research and development. Resources again is the platform. So value proposition is basically what? So the Google services are mostly free and fast search, and then they also offer this search ads and display ads. So these are the value proposition. Nobody else offers those things, right? Then customer relationship, like how will they establish the customers? So basically, it's so easy to search that people stick to the search engine. There are other search engine, but all the users or their customers stick to the search engine. And so there are like 3 types of customer segments here. Like one is the end user or the person or the user like us who is searching on the web. The other is the advertiser, and the third is the content writer. So basically, if you see this, you'll understand like what it is and how does this business canvas model works, right? Similarly, this is another example, and I think like you must have gone through it, so I'll not talk much about it. So after this business model canvas, the next thing what we need to do is we need to define this vision statement. So this is a format of how we define the vision statement. So basically, we start with for whom are we creating this product, who are our target customers, and who is basically this again is a user basically, and what is the need? What is the need that they have, and how can we fulfill that need? So basically we define that here, and this is the product name. So whatever product you're creating, so you must be naming that, right? So what is that name of the product, and which vertical or the domain does it fall under? So that is the product category, and that basically key benefit, reason to buy. So that is basically your USP, so you can relate it with your the BMC. And then unlike is basically, this is again USP. So what is that unique selling point, or what is that uniqueness in your product? So basically, benefit is the advantage to the user, and then key selling point or the USP is basically the unlike part. And our product is basically statement of primary difference. So you're defining further about like what it does and like what it will do. So basically, in one paragraph, like 3-4 lines, you should have your product statement ready, product vision ready, right? So your homework will be to define this, like my product will do this, or my product will offer these services to these people and will help them achieve XYZ and so on. So basically, you need to write this as the homework. Okay, I'll send the screenshot of this with everyone. And in order to understand that, we should refer to these examples. So like IKEA, what IKEA, or the statement of a vision statement of IKEA is, at IKEA our vision is to create a better everyday life for the many people. So this is the statement, and it's broad statement, but it does what the product product that they offer fulfills this vision, right? So this is IKEA. Similarly, Boeing, what it does is, or what it says is, people working together as a global enterprise for aerospace industry leadership. So they're into aerospace, and they want to be at the top, and they want to offer work together and like offer the best aeroplanes, right? So that is their statement. BBC vision is to be most creative organization in the world. So that is their statement. LinkedIn is create economic opportunity for every member of the global force. So basically, connecting all the global force, and then like creating opportunity for everyone. Facebook is basically connect with friends and the world around you on Facebook. So Facebook, you go on the Facebook, you connect with friends, it's a social network site, and so on. Similarly, TED has only 2 words, but it does what whatever is written, it relates to what it does, right? It spread ideas, and that is what the vision statement of TED is. So similarly, you will have to write your own statement. You'll have to it could be like 2 line, 5 line, it's fine, but basically going forward, what we'll do is we'll refine the BMC, the business model canvas, once, and then we'll improve our vision statement, and then we'll stick to the vision statement, and will not again refer to this BMC model. Okay, so your going forward will use the business vision statement, or the product business vision statement. So after this, it's the product vision template, or the vision that we write. And then now we have understood, like, okay, so there's a business need, and we have figured out like what is the business need. Now I'll get straight into the user experience design process. And so when we talk about the user experience, as the name suggests, it's user and the experience. So basically, what you're doing is you're defining or crafting experience for the users. And how are you able to define the experience for the users? By empathizing with them, by understanding who they are, what is their need, and where they live, what they do, their life, and so on. So you try to understand about them. So let's get started. So when I talk about experience, so we use different digital products, physical products, and even when we talk with people, like we sometimes feel happy talking to few people, while we don't feel good talking to other people, right? So this is basically the experience that you derive by either being in close connection, or close proximity of people, product, or services. So let us understand this with the help of an example. So what is experience? And when you talk about the user experience, what are the different elements that come together and create that experience, right? So we'll see this with the help of a restaurant. So these are just try to remember like your experience about your last visit to the restaurant. Just try to like answer these questions and understand, like, okay, so why did you go to that restaurant? What was the purpose, like, and what happened as soon as you walked into the restaurant? Did you feel good? Like they were they were very welcoming, or it was very cold? They were not like entertaining, or there was none to welcome. They didn't smile, and so on. And how was the ambience? Was it too dark, too lighty? There was too much of light. And when you went there, like how it was, the menu was nicely, that menu design was good, or like when the food came, was it tasty or not, and so on. And similarly, like how was the customer service? How was it for you to make the payment? So if you'll try to remember that, you will feel that yes, my experience was good. But certain people will say like, yes, no, my experience was not good because I didn't get the right treatment, and the food that I got was not tasty at all, it was not hot, or they didn't. So basically there will be many reasons and for you to be happy or not to be happy. So these reasons are basically helps you to get the satisfaction. So basically, whether you are happy or not, so that will define your level of satisfaction. And you might be like at certain stage happy about the service, but at other stage you might not be. So these ups and lows and highs and lows defines the experience of you as an individual. So you were the user, and here the product was the restaurant, right? So here what we see is like you were the user, you went to use the restaurant, and then you ordered the food. And when you ordered the food, so here you got the food, right? So what you got was the food, and how properly it was arranged, and how properly it was presented, and how tasty was that, and so on. So that was basically the visual design and usability, right? So basically, similarly, like in the real product, we also define, basically the user feels the same way. So when suppose I'm using an app, mobile app, and if I go onto that and if I like it, so that means like my level of satisfaction is very high. And in case I don't like it, then in that case I'll say that no, I didn't like the product because it was not fulfilling my need, or like the experience was not at all user friendly, and it was frustrating, and so on, right? So if we talk about another example, so in this example, what you see is like there's a teacher, there is a student, they are like doing the online classes, and here the users are like, there are two users, basically the student and the teacher, and the business or the person or the company who is selling the product is like, there are different businesses here. Like one is one who sold the device, and the other is like who's selling the software or the application. Similarly, design is what? Design is the physical device, design of the physical device, and the application is the basically the digital product. And usability is basically how easy it is for the both the users to use the product, whether it's like the digital product, that's the application, or the physical product. And when we see that everything is going good, and okay, so basically everything combined together makes up the experience, right? And also defines the level of the satisfaction. So when I talk about the level of satisfaction of any user or any product, it could be good, bad, or neutral. And good, bad, or neutral depends upon three factors. Score broadly three factors, and these factors are basically, if the user likes your product, that means your product has good usability, combined with the other two also. So basically, if the user comes to your app and or a product or a website, and is able to understand your product, understand the website, and is able to use the product, and if he's able to do three things, like basically he likes the product, he uses the product, he's able to use, he's able to understand what's happening, then that case the product is said to have good user experience. And in case he's not able to figure out like what that product does, then in that case he might have either neutral or bad level of satisfaction, and that's not good for your product. So our goal, our mission is to achieve what? Good user experience. And if you are able to achieve this is the best sweet spot. And here what will happen is like the business will also be will have the best advantages, and similarly the user will get the right product. Okay, so that was like physical example, that was like example from real life. But if you talk about, or if you have to define user experience, so user experience is the process, so that we'll learn in this workshop. So it is the process of creating user interaction, right, with devices or systems that provide an overall positive, engaging, and productive experience. So basically, there is a user, there is a system or an application, and then the interacts with it and derives some level of satisfaction. Okay, so this satisfaction could be positive or not, and that defines whether the product has good experience or not. So our mission, our motive is always to create a product that has got good experience. And if you put another way, so it basically deals with what? People. These are the users, and they interact with certain product, and then they derive some experience from that. Okay, and in this case we see the example I mean. So basically we have one user who is the cashier, the other is the customer who is paying, and the product is basically the POS machine or the payment machine, and so on. So basically create good product for one user, but for all the user groups or the personas of the product. And we'll learn that in the next few classes. So we understood like what is user experience, and the process of creating that experience is called as the user experience design. that is UXT. Okay, yeah, this is very important. So basically, whenever we are crafting any experiences or designing any experiences, we need to keep user at the center. So basically, all the decisions, all the experiences, or whatever we are crafting in the process, we should always think from the user point of view. We should always talk to them, take their feedback, understand what they want to achieve, what are their goals, and then craft the solution. Right? So that's why it's always said like the good user experiences are powered by customer and user-centric thinking in all aspects of design and development. Okay. And since we are talking about user experience and user experience for the digital space, so we will always talk about what digital system. So it will always be a digital system, and in order to create good experiences, we'll have to take care of the usability part. So basically, product should be usable. We should have to think about the interactions, all the interactions that's happening on the product. Like suppose I'm on a mobile app and I touch or tapped on something, then I should get a response back, right? So all the interactions we have to think very cleverly and intelligently. And similarly, the visual design should be very good. The presentation layer should be very good, so that people should love. You should make the people love and should make them use the product. So visual design is that, and along with that, the content should also be very engaging. It should not be like very boring, or you should not use like technical jargons and so on. So the content should be simple, and people should be able to relate to that, should be able to understand that, and it should be engaging. So in order to create a good product, we need to take care of these things, and we'll learn that as we go, and we continue with this workshop. So since we are all starting, or some of them are you all are already in this journey. So when we will start working in the real world, we'll see that there are different roles, or like if you'll see the different job postings, there will be like different roles, and people would be looking for, or the HR manager might be looking, or generally looks for like different skill sets. So here we see like at a very large scale, a broad scale. So these are different roles that the user experience designer performs. So one, it starts with research. So they will be like design researchers, or researchers who does the research of all the products and services, or the needs of the users, and does other things. That's comparative analysis. We'll learn about those things. They define it. There's the people who define information architecture, like how the information should flow and so on. Similarly, they also define about what is the interaction design, and then industrial and service design, information design, visual design, branding, technical communication, content management, human factors, usability engineering. We'll slowly and gradually learn about this, but these are different roles that the UX people or the UXers perform in the real world. Okay, so that was one way of presenting that. This is another way of presenting that. So basically, there are so many different things. Marketing people also pop part. When you talk about user experience, so the roles, so some are specialists and some are generalists. Okay, so like the marketing people, they doesn't contribute much towards the UX process, but they help in understanding few of the marketing information they give us, or the insights they give us. And but the UX person, he does most of the thing here, and he might play the role of the UX researcher, visual designer, information architecture, even the person who does the development, technology people. So they all come together and then create the experiences. So when you're working as a UX experience, you have to create very close relationship with them. You have to establish nice relationship so that you can get better insights from each and every one, and then you can create the right strategy to define create the perfect product. So you will see that there are so many different things: information architecture, visual design, design discovery, subject matter expertise, identity, marketing, stakeholder interviews. So these are terms that you should know if you want to get into this user experience design. Business research, discovery workshop, requirement gathering, comparative analysis. Then we talk about development, interaction design, and we'll slowly and gradually learn about each and every of these things. Okay. And since we are getting into this, we also should know like who is the founding father of this term, the user experience. So Don Norman is often called as the founding father of user experience. He coined this term user experience when he was working in Apple in around 1993. And since you are starting into this, I would recommend you that you should read this book, The Design of Everyday Things. You read this book, this will really help you get the basic concepts clear of like what is user experience. Okay, so yeah, so as I was talking, like experience everywhere. So basically, this user experience process is used everywhere. Be it like industrial designs, digital products, software in order to create that, or physical product, packaging designs, other. So basically, this process is used everywhere. But we'll be talking more about the digital product. But this user experience, all the industries are focusing on this user experience and customer experience, user experience, service design, and so on. So we should be we should learn this and start creating better products for the digital space, right? And I've talked a lot about this, but we should know this since many of them are new here. So why should we care about user experience, or like why should we? So there are many reasons why. Because UX is about feelings. It goes beyond HCI and puts emphasis on the human side. So earlier, what used to happen was like people used to, or the designers used to focus more on the interactions. They never used to focus on who's the user, what is their needs, and like their feelings, their empathy, their goals, their frustrations. Earlier the designers never used to focus on that. They just used to focus on two things. Okay, the user will come, he'll interact with some device, then the device should give some response. So that is basically called as the HCI, or the human computer interaction. So basically, as a human, I'm just an object. So I come here, if I have to use some digital product, I feed in some information and I should get the response. And it talks about those things, just the interaction between the human and the device or the application. But it doesn't talk about the human side. It didn't talk about the feelings or empathize with the user. So that's why if we have to build the right product, we'll have to consider the users, think from their point of view. So that's why UX talks about the feelings. UX in the UX process, we empathize with them and then create the product. So that's why like UX is very important, and because the products are used by the people and they want their needs to be met, right? So suppose you didn't talk to the people and you built built some product, and later you figure out that this product was not required. And what will happen is like in this process you will waste a lot of time, resources, money, and so on. So you should understand the real need of the user and then do the product design and product development. Okay, so since you are creating the product for the people, you should understand them and then create the right product. And people want their questions to be answered and want to be treated with respect. This is simple. So basically, their needs should be fulfilled, and all their questions or like needs or the goals should be achieved. They should be able to achieve using your product, right? Next is UX depends on the context in which the product is used. So this we'll learn in the research part. So basically, we'll try to understand what is mental model, so that is user's mental model, and then design the product for them. So basically, where the product is used, in which state, or which reason, and so on, right? You'll understand like the complete context of use and then create the product. So we learn about this. So this is very important. And UX is a process, which means it's practically scientific. So basically, it's scientific because you're following a process. There are different stages. You do the research. You back up your decisions basically, and with the right data, and you do a lot of interviews, a lot of research, and then you create the product. So it's a scientific thing. It's not just a regular stuff. So it's important. And then in the future, people are looking for or expecting too many things. So because the users are basically accessing the same applications on different channels, on different devices, different mobiles, different website, also basically different channels. So they want the same information on the website, on the mobile, and so on. So they have big expectation, and that cross-channel interactions are happening. So that's why like we need to think or understand the users more and then create the solution, right? And also we need, as a UX person, we also need to understand everything from the technology point and also business and so on. So basically we need to understand users a lot. And then strengthens brand messaging drives engagement and creates brand loyalty. So if you're able to create good experience, if you're able to convey the right messages to the users, then you will drive engagement, and people will, or the users will stick to your product, and there will be they will be loyal to your product. And this is from the business point of view. So if your product has a good experience, people will stick to your product, and then they will be increased revenue and increased conversions, lead generation will happen, and the users will be satisfied. So for the business part also, it's very important. And then great UX makes things enjoyable. So this is very important, right? So if something is enjoyable, if something is good, people will love it, they will like it, and they will love using the product. So great UX makes things enjoyable, right? I hope this is not too much for everyone, or we should discuss about the business model. Okay, perfect. Great, cool. So in the previous slide, I talked about why should we care, and then here is basically the factors that makes something useful, right? There we talked about the users and their mental models, and then why should we take care from the business and the user point of view. But here in this slide, what we talk about is like what makes the product useful or usable or a great product. So you should read about this. Peter Marvel, he came up with this term called as experience honeycomb, and this talks about these things. So basically, if your product will have better experience if it has these factors. So basically, if it is useful, if the people or the users are able to use your product, then yes, your product will have good user experience. Along with that, they should be able to use it. As I said earlier, people should be able to use your product. It should be useful and it should be desirable. It should be presented in such a manner. It should come in a nicely packaged way. The design should be very good. Experience should be good. Interaction should be good. If you're able to achieve everything, your product will have good experience. And if the user is there on the app, if he sees that yes, the product is very useful and it's very nicely designed, but if he's not able to find what he has come for, if he's not able to achieve his goal on the product, then in that case, what will happen? Your product will fail. So you should fulfill users' goal. That is very important, and that is basically the user should be able to find what they have come for on your app or product. And accessible is basically everything should be accessible to everyone. Even people, if your user group has people or the users who has some disabilities and so on, so you should cater to their needs also, and then craft your experience accordingly. And last but not least, your product should be credible. It should come from the right source, right company. Okay, and the company should be trustworthy, should have some brand value, and if your product has these factors, then that means that your product is useful and usable. So whenever you're crafting a product, whenever you're designing a product, you should keep these six factors in mind. One, always keep checking whether your product is useful or not, whether people would be able to use your product or not, would they come and have a desire to use the product. If yes, it's very well and good. And if they're coming with certain goals, are they able to find that or fulfill that goal? And if certain user group or users have certain special needs, are you catering to their needs or not? And have you packaged everything in a nicer way, and does it look credible? So you should keep this in mind when you're designing your experience. So now we understood like what makes good experience. We should also understand these, so that we don't we use these or like make a product like this. So our product should not be stressful. So it should not be stressful. So when I talk about stressful, I mean to say that too much of content should not be there, like too much of information feeding should not happen. If you have a lot of things to feed, then break that into small chunks, present it nicely, and that way what will happen is like if they have to consume a lot of content, it would be good, it will be fine, and they won't have any problem consuming a lot of information. Second, ugly looking. It should not be ugly looking. It should not be dirty or very, very bad looking experience, right? It should be very nicely designed, and if something is not good looking, people will not use that. It should not be confusing and frustrating. So if someone is there on the product and starts exploring, and if it's not able to figure out like what's happening on the application, then he will not stick to your product. And the next is basically distracting. So suppose you have like 5 different elements and all are distracting and not talking to each other, not working and all are going working as silos and not like working together as a unit, and too much of splashy colors or splashy images, so that will make your product distracting, or will make your product not look good. So that's why we should not make a product distracting, and we should avoid this. Inefficient is basically you only have half of the information in your application. It doesn't fulfill any goal. It stops in the middle and doesn't solve any purpose or any problem. So your product should not be inefficient. You should avoid getting certain this kind of experience. And tedious is basically if a user is there on the product, on the app, and if he has to perform certain tasks, and when performing he sees that there are a lot of steps, a lot of different stages, and he's not reaching the final stage, so then that means that your product is very tedious, and people will use it once and will never come back again. So we should avoid this, and then we should avoid all the unnecessary complexity. So your product should not have any kind of complexity in your experience. It should be very simple, very clean, minimal, and people should be able to use your product without any help and guidance. Perfect. I think I'll stick till here, and from tomorrow, and from the next class, I'll talk about the user experience process, and then we'll deep dive into the experience process. We'll talk about what is the process, and like what are the different processes that we use in the real world, and also different processes used by different companies. We'll talk about those, and then we'll also start talking about the different stages of the UX process. So basically, you start with the research, and then once you've done the research, you start giving meaning to the insights that you have got from the research. Then you do the ideation. Then once you've done the ideation, you start doing the designing of the prototype, and then at the end you do the testing. And once everything is good, you ship it to the market. Okay, so we'll learn about that in the next class. So now I think like what we should talk about is yes, I'm talking about that only. So now what you'll have to do is you have to define product vision. Okay, so now you have chosen one product. So now start writing a paragraph. Write a paragraph about what your product vision is, what you want to really achieve. Talk about, mention each of these things, like what is your USP, who are your customers, and what are the benefits or the services that you want to give to the users. And also along with that, what is your product category. So basically now whatever that model you have sent to me, so we have written about all the 9 focus areas. So now our next step is to create a paragraph defining what our product vision is, right? So do this and do this as the homework. Write it. See, these are few of the examples. Okay, so these are few examples. You can search online. There are like Amazon has a vision statement. Others also, Flipkart, then or Microsoft. Everyone has their vision statement. So vision statement could be from the company point or like from the product point, right? So you can write your vision statement. Okay, one more thing you should do as a homework. So what you should do is you should also start researching about who are the competitors or like the similar kind of service providers. Like you have, suppose you have selected this rent bikes or cars. So try to check like who are the other similar kind of service providers. Are there any service providers? How they're reaching the customers? What are the services that they're offering? Try to list that down in a paper or like in a document, and do that research. That research will really help us, because in the next stage of the user experience process, we'll understand what are the different methods that we use for research. If you have done this basic research, then it will become very easy, because after that what we'll do is we'll create a survey. We'll create a survey, then I'll also ask you to do interviews. So basically you'll have to interview a few people and understand that how do they repair their, suppose I'm talking about this rent and this, so are they using similar kind of services? If not, and if, then would they use if there is availability of that kind of services, so basically checking with the user if they will go and use these services or not, and also try to understand like what is the price point that they would be okay paying for these services and other things also. So but that we'll learn in the next class, like what are the different questions that we should ask the users, or also about all the methods that we should use in the research phase, right? But before that, try to do the Reiki or the understanding of the similar kind of product that's available in the market, and create all the rough notes. It could be like in normal data, normal Word document, papers, notes, and so on. Okay, perfect. So basically now this was theory. Now what will happen is next class we'll start creating surveys. Okay, first is like we'll create survey, and then the second is we'll understand like what are the questions that we should ask the users. So basically we'll define certain template or what do you say, transcripts basically, and we'll use that to do our research. Okay, so we'll do like 2-3 kind of research. So one is that I talked about the survey. The second is we'll create our own questionnaire, and then you can ask in your own group. You can ask others to volunteer and talk to them about your product, and then also question them. You'll have to draft your own question. You can ask them the questions and check like what the answers are, and then we'll start getting basically taking the insights from those research, and then we'll start taking the next steps and then presenting or creating the different artifacts that's required for the next stages. Okay. And meanwhile, what I'll do is before the next class, I'll do my homework. I'll go through all the submissions that you have done. So I'll try to see and check like what else could be there, and I'll try to improve that. And then in the next class, I will present. I'll take like 15-20 minutes to present all the business model canvas, and then we'll talk about like what other things could have been done and how we could improve, and like little more brainstorming could have like created in a better version of that. So we'll talk about those things in the next session, right? Yeah, perfect. So if you have any question here about today's session, you can ask me, and I'll try to answer that.
Hi Manprit, I have questions for the BMC form which we filled. Is it okay if I ask you?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so one of the major conflicts I'm having while I was filling in the form were that the project which I've chosen was to improve the usability of an existing product. In my case, I'm working on Z5. So a lot of aspects, I would say, things changed for me in terms of customer segment and all of that, because they were already established. So how do I how do I answer to those points specifically, which have already been defined?
Can you throw some light on the product? Like, what is your thought and what you wanted to achieve?
So the basic thing I want to achieve with Z5 is, if anybody is using it, I'm excuse me if I'm being very rude if I say this, but Z5 has one of the most terrible user experience I've ever had, and the fact is you are paying for it, and as simple as media consumption is not even possible. Like, it buffers, and buffering is also fine, but sometimes it skips an episode. If you are in middle of an episode, it skips completely the episode and goes to the other episode. So there are a lot of issues on that. And second thing, the content strategy. Like Z5 is not someone, I mean, generally I feel Z5 generally are used by people who are actively been using, who actively have been using, Z products for that matter. So someone like my mother, for her, navigating becomes so difficult. And when I showed her how Netflix works, she could get it immediately. So I could really understand how much of investment, at least in terms of thinking, has gone into improving user experience. And the third thing which I found, which has a lot of issues, is so the biggest USP of Z5 is its content is extremely regional. So with the lower prices, it has really seeped in. But the biggest problem and the reason why people don't really want to subscribe to Z5, what I have noticed from my family members is the overall there's a lot of clutter in which it's not worth the money. Even that $100 per month is not even worth that. That's what they say. So those are the different aspects I want to work on, because I'm facing those. So I thought probably. So considering those aspects, when I was working on this form, I was wondering whether I've picked up a correct project or not. So that's the reason.
No, it's a correct product. So now, say this product already exists, right? So now, as a user, you know, like what are your frustration points? So the experience is not good, the flow is not good, or the if we talk about from the technology point, the buffering is not happening, or it's automatically getting skipped to the next episode. So these are all your pain points. So now, for you, like the challenge will be like, how can you create a better experience or a better part of this? So basically, it will come from one, how would you be arranging the category, or how can you personalize that experience for the user? Like suppose I am Manprit and I'm like I have good experience in technology. Okay, so for me the experience could be something else. But if I log in and I create a profile for my mother who is not too much into technology, so then the experience could differ, right? So then everything could become very like can be like big and less of content on the main screen, and there should be like a story, you know, like. So basically the experience will can change, and you can do that in your exercise. So basically the arrangement or the hierarchy of the content should be very simple, and there should be a logical arrangement of the content. And few things are like basically from the presentation point, the other is basically from the technology or the other points. So you can't do much upon the technology. That the technology people have to you have to just send the request or give the note, you know, like this is what we want to achieve from the technology point, these are the problem statements, that's it. So that other team, the technology team, will take care of. But the presentation has, or the experience or the sequential flow of the experience has to be like very good, and that is where you will have to play and create the right experience, right? So basically proper arrangement of the content is very important. And then also like what you can do is you can talk to similar profile or similar personas. So basically like your mother, like also like other old people, and try to understand like what are their challenges, and also try to get answers from them, like okay, like how do you want these to be played, like do you have any preferences, or like what is your general flow of flow, so that you take like when you exploring the movies or watching the movies or other things, right? So basically there itself, like when we'll do the research or you will do the research, you will learn a lot. And by listening to them, you can like how the work will be done, and then create keep those points, and then you can start creating the experiences.
Thank you, Manprit.
Anybody else? Any question? Khushbu, the product statement can be like one line, it's fine. So, but it should have the context, like what you're trying to achieve and like what you're trying to do, or what your product is trying to achieve, or what you're trying to achieve through your products, right? So, it could be like 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 5 line, but should be very clear. Yes. So the homework is basically you need to define your vision statement, and the second is like find at least 4 or 5 different competitors, and then list down the services or the features that they have. Okay, so that is homework. And travel community application, which I want a feature to plan trip for users. How can it be achieved? Do I use the idea to collaborate with the already established travel apps, or do that from the ground up? Okay, travel community application, but if I want a feature to plan trip for users, do I use it? So again, it depends upon your business model. If you want to collaborate with other partners, it's fine. You can do that too. Or if you have to like if you want to start from this guy, then there will be a lot of groundwork that you have to do. You'll have to like market a lot. You'll have to reach people. Then you might have to like you might have to organize your own trips, and then people can come and join. You have to do like all the travel companies does, right? So you'll have to work in that way otherwise, or you can partner with other companies. It again depends on the business model that you want to take. Right, Karthik? Okay, cool. Any other question or all good? Perfect, all good. Cool. So do these two homework, and then from next, what we'll do is we'll start creating surveys and we'll start doing the research. And what I'll do is I'll take one product as a product, and then we'll walk you through with all the stages. Okay. So basically, I'll take any of the product, and then we'll see like what are to be done like at different stages. I'll do that for you, and you can see me doing how I generally do when I'm working on the real products, and that will give you a better insights on, or will help you understand in better way. Okay, I think like that will work better. Yeah, perfect. Cool. So I'll take one product, and let me take the OTT one or any other product, and then I'll work on it, and we'll explain you like how it's done. Cool. Cool, then perfect. ठीक है then, so we'll end this now.